There is a voice inside your head that never seems to be silent. Sometimes it comforts you, sometimes it criticizes you, and sometimes it simply never stops. Most people spend their entire lives fighting with this voice as if it is an enemy. But what if I told you that voice is not your enemy, it is simply an echo of your mind. If you learn how to make peace with it, life will no longer feel like a battlefield, it will feel like a garden. The voice in your head is not who you are. Thoughts come and go like shifting winds, sometimes calm, sometimes stormy, but none of them define your essence. You are not the storm, you are the vast sky that holds it all. The moment you realize this separation between yourself and the chatter, a doorway to freedom opens. Instead of drowning in every word your mind utters, you begin to watch it with distance, with clarity. The mind was never meant to rule you, it was meant to serve you. When it takes control, it turns life into a battlefield of constant inner arguments. But when you reclaim your seat as the master, the mind becomes a sharp and powerful tool capable of creating wonders. The tragedy of humanity is not that the mind is noisy, but that people mistake the noise for truth. Peace is born when you stop being a servant to this noise. Silence does not need to be created, it is already there. The inner voice is like dust covering a mirror, and when the dust settles, clarity shines through. If you fight with the dust, you stir up more chaos. If you allow it to settle, reflection becomes possible. The same is true with thoughts. Do not wrestle with them, watch them. The act of observation itself weakens their grip. In that still watching, a quiet strength rises from within. Most of what the voice repeats is nothing more than memory or imagination, fragments of the past and fantasies of the future. Neither has any real existence now. Yet people spend their lives being haunted by what has already gone or tormented by what has not yet arrived. To live carried away by this voice is to miss the only truth that matters, the present moment. Each time you bring yourself back to the breath, back to the body, you return to life itself. When you begin to see the voice as a messenger rather than a master, its presence becomes valuable. It may reveal fear, insecurity or hidden desires, but instead of being trapped, you learn from them. You stop reacting blindly and start responding with awareness. In this way, even the noise becomes a teacher. The voice may not disappear, but its power over you dissolves. What remains is a stillness so deep that even amidst thought, you are untouched. That stillness is peace. The mind was never designed to be your ruler, it was meant to be your servant. When it takes the throne, life becomes a constant struggle filled with doubt, confusion and noise. The thoughts that circle endlessly are not truth, they are simply echoes of memory and imagination. Yet, most people surrender to them as if they are commands. This is why so many live in conflict with themselves, torn between what they want and what the voice in their head demands. A tool should serve, not dominate. Imagine holding fire in your hands, it can warm your home or burn it down. The mind is just like this. When directed with clarity, it can create beauty, invention and wisdom. But when left to wander without control, it destroys peace, poisons relationships and clouds judgment. It was never the enemy, only an untamed force. Peace begins the moment you take back the seat of mastery and place the mind where it belongs. To do this, you must stop feeding the noise. Every bit of useless chatter, gossip and distraction you consume becomes fuel for the restless voice. If you fill the mind with clutter, it will suffocate you. But if you feed it with awareness, silence and purpose, it becomes light and sharp like a well-forged sword. What you give to the mind, it multiplies. Give it confusion, it grows into chaos. Give it clarity, it becomes wisdom. The mind will always speak, that is its nature. The problem is not the speaking, but your obedience to every word. If you watch closely, you will see that thoughts rise and fall on their own without your permission. When you stop running after them, they lose their authority. You don't need to crush the voice or force it into silence. You only need to see that it is not you. The watcher is you, the voice is only passing. When the mind returns to its true role as a servant, life shifts. Decisions come with ease, emotions no longer control you, and the weight of overthinking falls away. You begin to act from stillness rather than react from noise. The mind then becomes a precise instrument capable of expressing your highest potential. To live enslaved by thought is to live in chains, but to master the mind is to live in freedom. Silence is not something you manufacture, it is not the result of effort or struggle. It is the very ground beneath all the noise, always present, waiting to be noticed. The chatter of the mind is like waves on the surface of the ocean, restless and unsteady, but deep within, the waters remain unmoved. When you stop identifying with every ripple, you begin to sense that unshakable stillness that has never left you. People believe they must fight the noise to create peace, but fighting only multiplies the disturbance. The harder you push against thought, the louder it grows, like a fire fed with more fuel. Instead of battling the noise, you allow it to pass. Just as dust settles when left undisturbed, the mind too finds its natural calm when you stop stirring it with resistance. The silence is not something you gain, it is revealed when the struggle ends. This silence is not empty, it is full of life. It sharpens perception, makes every sound, every movement, every breath more vivid. Without silence, even joy becomes heavy because it is drowned in constant inner commentary. In silence, experience becomes pure. You taste food without distraction, you hear words without distortion, you see life without filters. The richness of existence is unveiled only when the noise gives way to stillness. The voice of the mind is restless because it feeds on memory and imagination. It drags you backward into what is gone or forward into what does not exist. But silence belongs only to the present. It cannot exist in yesterday or tomorrow. To rest in silence is to rest in this moment, the only place where life truly happens. In that presence, the voice loses its grip and what remains is clarity and freedom. When you begin to live from this silence, you discover strength that is not hard but unshakable. Words no longer have the power to wound you, and fears no longer have the power to enslave you. You act, you feel, you think, but all from a place untouched by the noise. This is not withdrawal from life, but the deepest engagement with it. For the first time, you live without being carried away by every thought, because silence has become the ground you stand upon. When you fight the voice in your head, you only strengthen it. Resistance is like fuel to fire. The more you push against it, the more aggressive it becomes. Every attempt to silence the mind by force only creates more chaos, because the act of fighting gives energy to the very thing you wish to overcome. The mind feeds on your attention, and when that attention is locked in struggle, the voice becomes louder and more insistent. The wiser approach is to stop treating the voice as an enemy. Instead, begin to observe it as you would watch clouds passing across the sky or waves rolling on the surface of the sea. They come, they move, and they disappear without you needing to interfere. Thoughts behave the same way when you refuse to chase them or resist them. Observation creates space, and in that space, the voice loses its power to dominate. When you step back into the role of the observer, something profound shifts. You are no longer tossed around by every rise and fall of thought, but instead remain anchored in stillness. The voice may speak, but you are not compelled to obey. It becomes like background noise, present but powerless. In this state, awareness grows sharper and clarity begins to guide your actions rather than the endless noise of the mind. Observation requires patience and detachment. It is not about judging whether a thought is good or bad, right or wrong. It is simply about watching without entanglement. In this simple act, thoughts naturally lose their sharpness and fade. They cannot survive without your constant involvement. By refusing to fight, you deny them the energy they thrive on and they dissolve like mist in the morning sun. This way of being is not escape, but mastery. You are not suppressing the voice nor letting it control you, you are placing it in its rightful place. The mind continues to function, but it no longer binds you. The chatter may remain, but it becomes like distant echoes, unable to disturb the depth of your silence. Through observation, peace arises on its own, unforced and unbreakable. The more aware you are of the voice in your head, the weaker its grip becomes. Most people live in such deep identification with their thoughts that they cannot see the difference between themselves and the noise. The voice speaks and they obey, it criticizes and they suffer, it imagines and they fear. But awareness creates a gap, and in that gap, the illusion of control begins to collapse. When you truly observe, you realize that the voice is not you, it is only a restless echo moving through the space of your mind. Awareness functions like light in a dark room. In darkness, shadows appear terrifying, shapes become distorted, and fear takes hold. The moment light enters, all confusion dissolves, not by force but by clarity. In the same way, when awareness shines on the voice, the endless drama it creates loses its authority. Thoughts that once felt like chains are revealed to be nothing more than passing sounds. The weight you carried was never real, it was only the absence of seeing clearly. This seeing is not about judging or suppressing the voice, about watching without entanglement. The mind thrives on your reaction. Every time you wrestle with a thought, you feed it energy and it grows louder. But when you observe without attachment, the thought has nowhere to land. It rises, it lingers, and it falls away on its own. Observation starves the noise, and in its place, silence begins to show itself, not created by effort but revealed by stillness. With practice, awareness grows stronger than the voice. Fear may still arise, doubt may still whisper, but they no longer command you. You hear them, but you do not kneel to them. You watch them, but you are not trapped in them. This shift is powerful because it changes the very foundation of how you experience life. Instead of being dragged helplessly by every thought, you stand firm, watching the storm without being swept away. When awareness becomes the ground you stand on, peace is no longer something fragile or temporary. It is not dependent on silencing the mind forever, nor on controlling what thoughts appear. It is the unshakable recognition that the voice cannot own you. It may speak, but it no longer defines your being. In this recognition, life is lived with clarity, strength and freedom because the noise has lost its power to rule you. Most of what you hear inside your head is nothing more than the past replaying itself or the future being projected in countless forms. The mind pulls you into memories that cannot be changed and into imaginations that have not yet happened. Both are illusions, shadows of reality, yet they dominate the present moment. The tragedy is that people spend their lives trapped between yesterday and tomorrow, while the only place life truly exists, which is now, slips away unnoticed. The past is heavy because it carries wounds, regrets and endless stories. Every time the mind recalls them, you relive the pain as if it is happening again. But the past has no life of its own, it survives only when you keep breathing into it with your attention. Without your constant replay, it is nothing but a faded imprint. To be enslaved by it is to allow a dead moment to rule a living one. Freedom comes the instant you see that what has already gone cannot touch you unless you keep resurrecting it. The future is equally deceptive. The voice paints it with fear, desire and anxiety, making you restless for what has not yet arrived. You suffer not because the future is real, but because imagination has the power to convince you it is. Fear of failure, fear of loss, or the craving for success all exist only in projection. In truth, tomorrow has never existed. It is an idea that steals the strength of the present and leaves you weak against a phantom. When you clearly recognize that most of the voice is just memory and imagination, its spell weakens. You stop being dragged backward into shadows and forward into illusions. Each time you see a thought rising, you ask, is this from the past or the future? That simple recognition breaks its grip. The mind cannot deceive you once you shine the light of awareness on its tricks. What remains in that clarity is the raw power of the present moment. In the present, there is no burden of what has passed and no fear of what may come. There is only direct experience, breath, movement, sensation, and life unfolding without distortion. The voice may still whisper of past and future, but when you know its game, you no longer bow to it. You stand in the immediacy of now, untouched by regret and unshaken by fear. This is where freedom begins, not by controlling the voice, but by refusing to be chained to illusions that do not exist. When the voice inside your head rises like a storm, the natural tendency is to react instantly. The voice provokes, and without thought you obey. It tells you that you are in danger and fear takes over. It whispers that you have been insulted and anger surges through you. In that instant of reaction, you are no longer free. You are a puppet pulled by invisible strings, moving not out of choice but out of compulsion. Reaction is always born from noise. It carries the weight of past wounds, old fears and hidden insecurities. When the mind shouts and you leap, you are not acting from clarity, you are acting from confusion. This is why regret follows so many of your actions. Words spoken in anger, decisions made in haste, choices driven by fear, all of them arise when you let the voice dictate your movements. The cost is heavy because reaction always binds you to consequences you did not truly choose. To break this cycle, you must learn to create space between the voice and your action. When the mind screams, do not jump. When it whispers, do not rush. Pause. Breathe. In that single breath lies the power to reclaim yourself. That pause separates you from the noise and allows you to see clearly what is truly happening. The voice may be loud, but if you do not immediately obey, you begin to act from stillness rather than from the storm. Responding from stillness is not weakness, it is immense strength. It means your actions are deliberate, rooted, and free from the chaos of thought. A response arises out of awareness, not compulsion. It is measured, clear, and aligned with reality, not with imagined fears or remembered wounds. Such responses carry a power that reaction can never have, because they come from a place beyond noise. They are not bound by the past or enslaved by fear of the future. This shift from reaction to response changes the very fabric of your life. It frees you from being a prisoner of the mind and makes you the master of your choices. The voice may shout, it may whisper, but it no longer commands you. You hear it, but you move only when clarity guides you. This is true freedom, not the absence of thought, but the ability to act without being ruled by it. In that freedom, life becomes steady, purposeful, and deeply powerful. The voice inside is shaped by what you allow into your mind. Every word you hear, every image you watch, every conversation you engage in becomes fuel for its endless chatter. If you constantly feed yourself with noise, gossip, and distraction, the voice will mirror that chaos. It will repeat the confusion you take in multiplying it until you feel trapped in thoughts that do not even belong to you. The mind is like soil, whatever seeds you plant in it will grow, whether they are weeds or flowers. Most people are careless with what they consume. They allow the mind to be filled with fragments of other people's opinions, with fear-driven stories, with shallow entertainment that only stirs restlessness. Then they wonder why their inner world feels heavy and loud. You cannot expect peace if you fill yourself with disorder. The voice inside is only reflecting the clutter you keep feeding it. If the input is toxic, the output will be equally poisonous. Clarity comes when you consciously choose what to allow in, just as you would not eat rotten food and expect health. You cannot feed your mind with endless rubbish and expect silence. Choose conversations that uplift rather than drain you. Read words that expand your understanding rather than shrink it. Expose yourself to what inspires rather than what pollutes. Every single choice shapes the quality of the voice in your head. What you take in is what you will hear echoing back. The mind becomes sharper and lighter when it is fed with simplicity. A moment in nature, the stillness of breathing, a word of wisdom, or an act of kindness, these are nourishment for the inner world. They do not clutter, they clear. They create a voice that is steady rather than restless, gentle rather than harsh. What you put in does not vanish, it becomes part of the echo. When the input is pure, the echo begins to harmonize instead of clash. If you want the voice in your head to serve you rather than enslave you, you must take full responsibility for what you allow to shape it. Do not let the world decide what enters your mind, guard it as you would guard your own home. Let clarity, silence and wisdom be the food you feed it daily. When clutter is no longer welcome, the inner voice becomes an ally, guiding you with strength and calm rather than drowning you in confusion. The voice inside the head has a habit of dragging you away from the only place life truly happens. It pulls you into stories of the past or visions of the future, keeping you trapped in a cycle of what was and what might be. Each time you drift with it, you abandon the present moment and with it, the reality of life as it is. The present does not shout like the voice does, it is quiet, subtle, but filled with the raw truth of existence. To live outside of it is to live in shadows. The return to the present must become a practice, because the pull of the voice is strong. It will tempt you with unfinished conversations, with regrets that cannot be undone, with fears that may never come true. If you are not vigilant, you are swept away again and again. But each time you notice, there is a choice: remain lost in the noise or come back to what is real. Even a single breath taken with awareness has the power to cut through the endless stream of thought and bring you home. The body is always in the present even when the mind wanders. To feel the rhythm of your breath, the weight of your steps, the sensations in your hands is to anchor yourself in reality. These simple acts hold a power greater than any philosophy because they return you instantly to now. The voice cannot dominate when you are deeply aware of the body, for the body does not remember yesterday and does not imagine tomorrow. It simply exists here. Each return to the present weakens the grip of the voice. The more often you bring yourself back, the less control the chatter has. It still speaks, but you are no longer trapped. Instead of being dragged away for hours or days, you notice within moments and reclaim yourself. This repeated act of returning is like training a wild horse. Slowly, the mind learns it cannot carry you wherever it pleases. It learns to obey the strength of awareness. Living in the present is not withdrawal from life, it is immersion in it. When you are here fully, you taste food as it is, not as a memory or an expectation. You hear words as they are spoken, not through the filters of old wounds. You see life with fresh eyes instead of through the haze of thought. The voice may still murmur, but its power fades in the light of presence. To return to the present again and again is to reclaim life from the prison of the mind. The voice within often feels like an enemy because it exposes the parts of yourself you do not wish to face. It brings up fear when you try to be bold. It whispers insecurity when you reach for growth. It stirs doubt when you dream of something greater. Most people try to shut it down, to silence it, to run from it. But avoidance only strengthens its power. What is rejected in the mind does not disappear, it hides in the dark and returns with more force. When you look closely, the voice is not here to destroy you, but to reveal you. Every fear it speaks points to where courage must be found. Every doubt it throws shows you the exact place where trust is missing. Every insecurity it repeats uncovers the wound you have not yet healed. The voice is like a mirror that does not lie. You may not like what it reflects, but if you dare to face it, it becomes a guide rather than a tormentor. Seeing the voice as a teacher requires strength, because it means turning toward discomfort instead of away from it. The easy path is distraction, burying the noise under constant activity, entertainment or false positivity. But that only delays the lesson. The hard path and the real one is to listen deeply and ask, what truth is hidden inside this noise? When you inquire in this way, the voice transforms from a nuisance into a doorway. Every whisper of the voice can take you deeper into understanding yourself. Fear reveals attachment, anger reveals hurt, envy reveals longing. Nothing the voice says is random, it all rises from the soil of your being. To dismiss it blindly is to lose the chance to know yourself fully. The challenge is not to believe everything it says, but to learn from why it is saying it. Behind every word is a clue to the state of your inner world. When you stop resisting and start learning, the voice becomes a companion in your growth. Its whispers lose their sting because you no longer see them as threats, but as messages. You are no longer trapped in reaction, you are engaged in discovery. Slowly, the voice softens, not because it has vanished, but because you have absorbed its lessons. In this way, what once tormented you becomes the very force that shapes your freedom.